morning, everybody, and welcome to the final free practice session for the 2023 MotoGP French Grand Prix. Moto2 third practice has just finished, which is what you're seeing in the background. But hopefully it should jolt in as the green light is on, actually, and we are underway for free practice. So the green light has gone on a minute early. We are behind ever so slightly in terms of all of our data. That is mainly due to the fact that we've had a red flag in Moto3 in their free practice session, so everything's slightly delayed. But track temperature, that's at 17 degrees, air temperature is at 16, 75% humidity. We've got a damp pit lane, we've got a slightly damp track as well, so fingers crossed it's going to be A-OK. And we're just waiting for our timing towers to jinx over, but they haven't. So let's go over and say good morning to BT's.
Sure, good morning to everyone. Good morning to you guys out there. Looks a little bit chilly, I'd say, a little bit breezy too. Judging by the hair all flying all over the place, and that's not what we like here. If you've not seen Moto3 and Moto2, it was a fully wet Moto3 practice this morning, so no improvements in times there. Scott Ogden was quick in the wet conditions, but he will go through Q1 later. And in Moto2, no changes either there. Wet tyres until the final 5 minutes ago. Somkiat Chantra set the best lap of the session. He was almost second quicker than anyone, but was still 3 seconds off Sam Lowes' best time from yesterday. So as they head out onto track, Neil and Michael, perfect conditions, just what you want, isn't it?
This is not what you want, no. It is very, very difficult. Michael's just walked into the commentary box. I came in here about 5 minutes ago, and honestly, Gav, you've got the heating turned up. It feels lovely in here, but honestly,
yellow's already in sectors 3 and 4, so surely no one's gone down already. But there is a yellow flag in sectors 3 and 4, and it is the 72 of Marco Bezzecchi, who has crashed immediately and has broken the front windscreen of the bike and the front aerodynamics as well. And this going into the final 30 minutes before the qualifying session starts. Literally, if you're new here, good morning, welcome. 30-minute session now for free practice. Straight after this, we are bang into qualifying. We don't even get a second to wait. We are literally straight into qualifying. Yellow flag's been rescinded. It did go off at the S Blues 11 and 12 chicane before coming into the Coup de Monde at 13 and 14. Let's see what we're going to have then. As we exit the last corner, we ride with Bagnaia as he heads into turn 1 and into turn 2 at Dunlop before the Ford chicane at 3 and 4 before dropping in La Chapelle. We're at turn 1 now. Little kick at 2 into 3 and 4, the chicane on the top. Nicely done as we ride over through the Dunlop Bridge, downhill towards La Chapelle. Sound is up. He's got a little wide, and Pecco's had to back out of that. A little bit wide of the front end of the bike. It's still a damp track, so we're still experiencing all the problematics that we're thinking. So this is a crucial 30 minutes now. They've got to get out there, they've got to learn the track, because several riders have got to go through qualifying 1, most notably Fabio Quartararo has to go through that first segment of qualifying, and he must be prepared in these mixed conditions.
At that pace, or if you are being a bit more gentle, you're not going to get the heat you need into the tyres to make them work. It's a vicious circle, and that's why yesterday there were 36 crashes. We've had record numbers of crashes here over the years. It's just that kind of track.
It really is that kind of track. I think what sums up this kind of track is we watch the Moto3 boys go out on a damp track. He's going to run in the gravel here. Whoa, it's done well to...
That's quite a row,
actually, but that just shows. But yeah, we watched the Moto3 boys go out, and we had 3 crashes before anyone had completed a flying lap. I mean, these are the best riders in the world with a lot of experience, but it just goes to show how difficult it is on this. It's a low grip track to start with, so there's just generally from the tarmac itself is not grippy. You have cold conditions, and it doesn't matter if you're also on Dunlop tyres or in MotoGP with Michelin tyres. You've got the cold conditions, and then you've got the lack of left-hand corners that you fully load the tyre like you've just spoke about.
First flying lap for everyone, over 6 seconds or more slower than you would be on a normal lap here in the sunshine. It's trying to poke through the clouds, and there is forecast for some brighter skies later on, but you never know. Here at Le Mans, you can get a sudden shower, very, very similar to conditions you'd find at any race back in the UK, but it really does challenge them around this historic old venue here today. I wonder now, we've got this free practice. Of course, this is irrelevant as regards the qualifying times, but of course, it's their only chance to work on the bikes, to try and set things up, but it's going to be a wasted half an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It's in these conditions you can learn a little bit in terms of how difficult it is to get the tyres up to temperature, how long you have to be a little bit careful, but in terms of the race setup and fine-tuning your optimum bike position and tyre wear and even electronic settings for the race, you're not really going to gain a lot when you're lapping 3 seconds off the pace. So, well, they're getting a little bit faster here, but it's not ideal. It's nowhere near where they want it to be, especially when you compare with yesterday's FP1 and 2 sessions.
But what it does do, actually, it gives us a pointer towards qualifying, which is, of course, coming up next here, and we'll be finding out how the grids line up for today's sprint later on this afternoon. And so we might get a pointer towards that as Jack Miller rounds the final corner. Winner here, of course, in 2021. Those back-to-back wins on the Ducati. And Neil, yesterday, Jack looked the fastest of anyone out there. And
Yeah.
I don't just mean he was top of the timesheets. I mean,
No, he
his
looked
pace.
it consistently in both sessions, fastest. Don't think, I'm thinking back now, I can't think that Jack's had a better day in MotoGP. I think that's fair to say.
Well, yesterday he was a 1:30.950 in the second practice session, massively faster compared to everybody else. So if you're new today and missed out on practice yesterday, the top 10 automatically going through to the second part of qualifying: Jack Miller, Aleix Espargaro, Marco Bezzecchi, Jorge Martin, Johan Zarco, Maverick Vinales, Brad Binder, Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, Alex Marquez. They are the 10 automatically going through to qualifying number 2. Having to go through Q1, Luca Marini, Fabio Quartararo, Johan Mir, Alex Rins, Augusto Fernandez. Then ahead of Takaki Nakagami, Franco Morbidelli, Fabio Di Stefano, Daniel Petrucci, Lorenzo Salvadori, and Jonas Folger as well. Now, practice 1 and 2 are the only sessions that count towards qualifying. This practice session you're watching this morning, the free practice session, is 30 minutes to get both bikes set up ahead of qualifying, and the sprint race later today will have a 10-minute warm-up session tomorrow morning as well for race setup. But Miller continuing his domination of topping all the sessions. It's a 1:33.082. He's fastest for Vinales in second.
Angle on the back, a little bit of angle, so he's got a bigger contact patch, so it's slowing the back down more. When you watch him do it, it's so impressive.
It's interesting because normally the complaint was when you tried to do that, you'd get locking off the front, and then the risk factor goes up. If you take the tyre off dead centre, then all of a sudden the front locks, you can't catch it. Whereas if you're dead upright and it locks, you've got a momentarily, it needs to be a split-second decision. You release the front brake, but yeah, obviously Jack's got that all under control, and it is impressive.
And just to then you can throw Binder into the mix. Whatever he's doing, I can't really explain that, because he's sideways and it is backing in a lot, but he is also using, let's say, a bigger contact patch part of the tyre, because he has got a lot of lean angle. Yeah, whatever that is, that's just pure talent.
Back-to-back tests was that for Marquez. He's got one bike with a Calyx frame in, one with a more standard frame in. But he changed his helmet. I'm wondering whether it was a visor change, or maybe he's gone out with a darker visor, or I don't know. I just noticed that he did that, and if you're coming in to have a quick change, you probably wouldn't, go with it. I don't know. Just suggesting.
Also with KTM, I believe they tried a different chassis in Jerez at the test on Monday and liked it, and they're using it this weekend. So it's
Pecco Bagnaia, he didn't have the greatest day yesterday.
No, it's gone wrong here.
And it wasn't like Jerez, however, where, of course, it was disastrous on the first day and they turned things round. I'm not sure, he's cruising round. Sort of like Nakagami do something similar, didn't we, on the Honda earlier this weekend?
Weird one.
There's no smoke or anything like that, was there? But there was
Bagnaia into the pit lane.
Taka Nakagami yesterday. It took him That was quite weird, wasn't it? He was insisting the marshals didn't spray their fire extinguisher on it, and yet we could all see the flames. Well, we can have the onboard audio pumped up, but there's nothing. There's no engine running. It's a pretty boring situation.
I just turned mine up to see if it was still running, and I realised it wasn't.
So Pekka Bagnaia start this session. That's not ideal, is it? Because, look, he says, actually, the bike felt okay yesterday. Just maybe, I think it sounded to me almost like the medium tyre wasn't necessarily working that well for him. But still, it didn't have the feel, did it?
Yeah, it didn't look like it was coming easy. He was struggling to pull it down. He was wide a lot more. Normally, whenever you see Pekka on form, he is pinpoint accurate, and he does it every single lap. So, yeah, not an ideal start to his pre-practice session here, but normally you don't see engines let go too often in MotoGP. There's so many safety buffers built in, and it'll essentially shut down, go into a limp mode and switch off, which you would imagine is a scenario where a sensor or something's gone down, the bike's cut out, and it's just brought it back to keep the engine safe.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get the sound turned up and everything in stereo, but we're not going to hear anything because this bike has shut off, so they'll plug it straight in and see what's what on the Ducati. You know, I'm finding it fascinating at the moment because, you know, we started the season, we're thinking, right, well, Ducati are going to absolutely waltz this, aren't they? They're going to run away with it. And as things stand, Pekka Bagnaia sits top of the standings with 87 points, 22 ahead of his nearest rival. But for me, the way the KTM started yesterday at a track they've never been strong at, already having put showings in at the start of the season, at other venues, you know, Miller was looking strong in the USA before a crash. Jerez obviously went fantastically well. Argentina, Binder was successful in the sprint. There may be a challenge, an unexpected challenge from the orange bike.
Absolutely, that is, yeah. I think we're all that moving on the way in today. I had it on opposite lap, did Mark. I think we're all super excited at the start of this season, but we never said this, but we've not openly talked about it. But I was sort of slightly nervous, thinking it is going to be a Ducati domination. It could be a boring season, and it's rare you say that now in one.
Hang on, has he not seen the fact that Jack Miller and KTM and Brad Binder are getting insanely quick in the last couple? I'm not taking that one bit. Look at that, Miller's gone fastest again with a 1:32.548. He topped the combined times yesterday in both sessions. Absolutely, KTM are contenders.
GP, he said, every discipline, every two-wheel discipline they've entered, they've become the best in the world at, and they've always done it their way. They're not afraid to buy riders. They've done that in the past. I remember when they won the first sort of
right, let's listen to Bagnaia.
They sort of bought Ryan Dungey, who was the main man at the time. So they're not afraid to do that.
That sounded a bit weird, didn't it?
Bagnaia lost complete engine. Gearbox had gone straight to neutral. So the gearbox on the bike has gone. Wow.
Like drivetrain.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Strange.
He's got no drive.
So,
And they've done it in road racing already, and what I say that is Moto3 and Moto2.
Yeah,
they did it because it was
exactly, and won. So we expected it to come, but then I don't know. The last couple of years with KTM, I've been slightly underwhelmed. But we know it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy. But
and the development freeze. Let's not forget with COVID and what that did. It delayed a few things left, right, and centre, didn't it? But no, we are also impressed. It was interesting, Michael, when you were stood next to that bike and you were showing those little ducts down the side of the bike. It felt very Formula One to me.
Yeah.
It felt, I could feel the input of Red Bull F1.
And actually, when you look at it from quite far away, it doesn't look too dissimilar to a lot of the aero that's going on. But like Aprilia, there's a lot of little veins in strange places, like on the rad, in through the internal bodywork. Obviously, I remember listening to Romano Alvesiano talk 2 years ago when he said internal aerodynamics is pretty much untouched in MotoGP, and it's a massive thing. So speeding the airflow through the in and around the engine, through the rad, getting the exhausting that air out, the hot air out of the rad and out the back. So obviously KTM have gone to work on that, plus the lean angle, the ground effect that they're achieving now with these bulbous lower fairings. It's a different game. It's changed so much in the last few years.
It's so funny you say that, because that's what Danilo Petrucci said. He's riding the factory Ducati for the first time in 3 years.
While you were bullying him into suggesting he was going to get a top 10 finish.
I'm just call me Mr. Motivator. And I'm not wearing any lycra, by the way, or a bum bag. Well, I believe bum bags are back. Or is it fanny packs? Which one? I always forget what they're called. No, bum bags are back. Did you know that?
I didn't.
True story. True story. So my 15-year-old son says, anyway.
I think that was about 5 years ago, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Always early to the party, aren't you now?
But he said, Danilo was saying yesterday, he's saying, I can't believe how different this motorcycle, the Ducati, the current 2023 bike is to the one that he rode back 3 years ago. He said he's so different. And he said after he said I can't do the accent, but he said after day one my arms are 20 centimeters longer. The bike's got so much power.
Yeah, and I have to say, I thought it was impressive yesterday. 2 seconds off, having not ridden that bike. Obviously, he rode a KTM last year and he rode a Suzuki, didn't he, as a stand-in. But still, to be 2 seconds off, I think that's and ahead of Savadori and Folger, who are testing those bikes. Savadori is in for Miguel Oliveira, by the way, if you're wondering where he is. It doesn't look good. I had a long chat with Razlan Razali. They're hoping Mugello, but we're all sat here. We've all talked at length about his shoulder. That's one of those that's going to rumble on, and he doesn't want to rush him back. He really don't, because it's like Marc Marquez, one of certain injuries that he's had.
Just a quick one, Gav. I know the times are about 1.5 off where it is in optimum conditions, but talking about the KTM and the feeling it gives you, gas mounted rookie Fernandez up in P2 in this session. Also, Jack knocking those lap times in consistently, half a second faster than everybody else. So in these cool track conditions, the KTM's obviously providing the feedback, the confidence, because it's such a hard racetrack with the low grip, low temperature. You just don't know what the tyres are doing, but it's obviously given Rookie and Jack Miller and Brad Binder's in the mix there as well. So it's working. They've definitely found something.
Augusto was so impressive yesterday. He was in the top 5, through the first practice on pace alone.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one-off lap.
No, it wasn't, and it wasn't like he got a tow. You can only imagine what poor Paulo Spargaro's thinking, sat at home. A man you would have really expected to click back with the KTM. So
yeah, and thankfully, if you hadn't seen, he put up a really nice message on social media. First time he's been able to speak publicly, really, because he's had his jaw had a metal work,
fracture the jaw, that wired up
had it all wired up.
What's the latest with the comeback?
He hopes to be back in Mugello. Hopes to be back in Mugello.
Oh, that's good news. Oh, I thought it was going to be longer than that.
I think it might be, but it's one of those hoping to get back. He lost.
That'd be brilliant if he'd be back there.
A lot of weight because he's been eating.
He's not been able to eat.
He's been eating liquid, and imagine the muscle wastage and things from someone who's so active, very, very fit. Yeah.
So we've got 12.5 minutes left then in this session. Luca Marini 9th, Marc Marquez in 2nd position at the moment. Let's do a quick 1 to 10. Jack Miller is the fastest rider, once again by 0.3 of a second to Marc Marquez, who has got a rebuilt Kalex bike ready for the qualifying and sprint later. And we've got Augusto Fernandez 3rd, Fabio Quartararo's 4th, Franco Morbidelli's 5th, Maverick Vinales 6th, Takiki Nakagami 7th, Jorge Martin is 8th, Luca Marini 9th, and Brad Binder rounds out the top 10. And then further down, Johan Mir's 11th, Aleix Espargaro is 12th, Pecco Bagnaia 13th, Alex Marquez 14th, Johan Zarco 15th, Daniel Petrucci is 16th, Alex Rins 17th, Fabio Di Gianantonio is 18th, Lorenzo Salvadori 19th, Jonas Folger is 20th, and Marco Bezzecchi has yet to set a time after crashing in the opening minutes of this session. So less than 11 minutes 13 to go as well. Track temperature is still 18 degrees, air temperature 15, 11 km/h wind speed blowing in from the northeast, but 77% humidity. That's risen by 2% since the session started as well. So that's a good sign to have rising humidity. The sun trying to break through the clouds. We had a wet start to the day here in Le Mans. The practice for Moto3 was completely wet, 11 riders down in the first 5 minutes, and a red flag to get gravel off the circuit. That's why we were slightly delayed to the start of this practice session. It started at 10 past the hour instead of on the hour as they come through, which is why it's currently 9:29. We've got 10 minutes left of this session. So hopefully all's going to be back on schedule soon, ahead of qualifying. As we've already discussed with Miller top and Aleix Espargaro in second position as well. Kalex bike is back on now for Marc Marquez. I've just been informed, so his rebuilt Kalex bike is now being tested here. Let's hope he doesn't crash it like at the end of free practice 2 yesterday.
With no testing, coming in to jump on obviously a bike you've never ridden, but for a Frenchman to have an opportunity to do the French Grand Prix, I can imagine it was an exciting prospect.
You're on a hiding to nothing.
The reality is you're on a hiding to nothing.
Or
Sylvain knew that.
A hiding to nothing or a one-way ticket to Le Mans General.
Medical centre, yeah.
And that just shows you the difference a 45-year-old makes in a decision-making process than a 25-year-old. You're always an eternal optimist when you get offered something like that, but Sylvain knew the likelihood of coming out of it with a beneficial weekend. It's such a tall order to step into this class with the riders at the level they're on these bikes. Yeah, you're on a hiding to nothing.
Marc Marquez back this weekend. As Susie mentioned earlier, double long lap penalty being annulled by the Court of Appeal, more on a technicality if nothing else. Mark's the first to say I deserve a penalty, but I suppose having sat 3 races out now, it had to be annulled because of the wording of things. They'll try and rectify it in the future. Mark has his own issues with the new system. He says how people will come back injured then and try and use their penalty and take their penalty while being injured. I think he's got a point on that as well.
Yeah, you would.
You know, well, already we've heard from him yesterday. He hinted at it with Natalie, said it to media yesterday. Well, the crash at the end of qualifying, he said to Natalie it wasn't great. But actually, I was pushing. And if I do crash, brings out the yellow flags.
Yeah, and if I don't crash, basically, I'll risk everything. If I don't crash, that means I will go faster. And if I crash, it brings out the yellow flag so no one else can go faster. And you go, oh, I don't want to hear that. That's the reality. That's how a very selfish motorcycle racer thinks. And you go, well, surely you wouldn't think he's not crashing on purpose. No, of course he's not crashing on purpose. But if you think about, he's going to try and do the fastest lap he can do so he gets through to qualifying 2.
Which he managed.
And if he didn't quite manage it and he took to front whilst risking that, then the yellow flag will come out and no one else can go faster.
And all the riders will think the same.
Exactly the same. I'm just surprised.
It's a fuzzy logic. It sounds not right to those of us not built of the same breed as the MotoGP racer.
And it's like me saying in the past, I've said it in commentary, and I've seen you look at me, Gav, to go, I can't believe you're saying that. I've said, hey, you're the truth, right? Riders don't slow down when they see a yellow flag. They don't. Not if they... Don't get me wrong, if you're in the middle of a practice session, you slow down. But if you're in a race, you don't slow down. If you're on a qualifying lap, you don't slow down. Obviously, you have to do now because when the yellow flag's out, that lap's taken away, so you will slow down. And that's why they've obviously brought that rule in.
There was a meeting as well yesterday with Rider Safety Commission every Friday, but the stewards, MotoGP stewards, were in there talking, including Freddie Spencer, talking to the riders. Haven't had too much, but the general consensus of what happened was all the riders argued amongst themselves. The steward explained their piece, they argued with them, nobody agreed on anything, and we're as we are, and status quo.
Oh.
Doesn't
surprise me.
Could any of us have predicted that? It's exactly the script that we know that it's going to take.
I'd just love to know how it went. Now, I know you've just said it obviously didn't go well. I'd like to know, like, for example, this is what I would like to see as a rider then, because I want some clarity, because this is really blurred. So what I want then is, I want some footage from the Jerez race to show this pass is acceptable, this pass is not acceptable. Because, for example, the pass that Bagnaia did on Miller was no different to the one that Miller did on Jorge Martin. It was a dive bomb. It was a block pass. It's what we love in racing, where the outside rider has to pick up. The fact that Miller didn't pick up and there was contact, it was with the Bagnaia incident, that was just a racing incident. So, but that's what I'd like to see, Michael. If I was in there, I'd like to
100%.
Go on, explain clearly. Show me some footage of what we are allowed to do, because at the moment it's blurred, very confusing.
Just really quickly, Michael, on that, we just saw the Honda. Is that a bath mat making a reappearance inside the Honda garage this time?
Lorenzo, you did say it yesterday, Lorenzo, best test rider in the world. So yeah, they're still taking their feedback from Jorge. But yeah, it is obviously trying to get Mark a little bit more comfortable on the bike. The tanks are so low in these machines, so it does look like it's a little bit of an edge, maybe for him to put his elbow on when he's hanging off the inside of the machine.
Yeah, and it's sort of easy to forget that obviously this is Mark's first race back from breaking his thumb, so he'll be in pain on this track, Michael, with a heavy braking down into Garage Vert. It's, is that how you pronounce it? It's there's a lot of weight and force on your hands.
So Marc Marquez is in fourth spot in the session. Maverick Vinales just gone top of the pile. Maverick again on the Aprilia. You see those little wings they've got on the front wheel, always testing little bits. Remember, they are outside of the rules, if that makes sense. The rules about aero only affects the bodywork basically from the nose to seats.
But seat isn't included, so you can add different add-ons. Essentially, KTM have used the bigger seat one that Danny used, so they have actually changed their seat unit from Jerez until now, but they haven't changed. So the main fairing, that's your main aero body, and the mudguard is actually included in that. So the attachments off of that on the wheel aren't included, swing arm aren't included, seat aren't included. It is the main aero body.
I've been reading about so Aprilia have got fork wings.
Yeah, when you see I don't actually know exactly what they're to achieve, but you would imagine when you look at them, it's to do with airflow down the side of the machine.
You have seen, they're similar to the Ducati ones almost, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can sort of, you'll see them now. They're running
fork wings.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not. Their Ducatis were a lot closer to the wheel. These do sit offset another 20 mil off the side of the disc.
I like Aprilia's new the whatever you want to call it, XRI spoiler on the back. That's quite nice. As opposed to the KTM one, looks wrong, doesn't it? You're like, the KTM one, surely what's that doing?
Looks like Tinky Winky off the Teletubbies.
Well, it is though, isn't it? Yeah. It's bizarre. But the KTM one, Michael, is that then, just to clear this up, is that to basically make it like no slipstream?
Oh, I do believe that they have a good effect on creating a bit of turbulent air out the back, dirty air essentially, to upset the draft of the rider following. But I do think that they do provide a bit of downforce to the rear tyre, help with traction, grip, corner entry as well, although the rider blocks it, so you don't get a lot of wind into it when you're braking. But I do think it helps retain contact with the rear tyre to help stop these machines. So all part and parcel of what Jack was talking about, able to use the rear tyre to stop the bike.
These times with 3 minutes to go, still over 1 second outside of the window. We'd expect them to be on a fully dry track, and it's just an element of caution in every corner. Just watching Johann Zarco here, surprised that Silva tipped him as a possible winner here this weekend.
I heard that before, Michael.
No.
He's never been in Johann's corner ever, I think.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, you sat at home. We're in the hire car with Sylvan, or we have dinner in the evening, and genuinely, it stays with a straight face. He'll go, "Do you know what I fancy for this weekend? I really think Zarco is going to get his first win." It's the standard line from Matt.
You know what? He's going to be right one day.
He is. We hope so.
we all hope.
Hopefully it's here. I'd love it. I'd love it. We'd all love it to be right here in front of his home fans, in front of a packed crowd. I have to say, it's been a brilliant weekend so far. The fans have poured into this place, as Sue said, from Wednesday. We were here on Thursday, and already there's a few engines expiring out in the campsites, weren't there?
Yeah, to put it into perspective, how far would you say our hotel's away? 5 miles?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 miles away. It took me 45 minutes to get home yesterday. Just because it's just rammed.
Yeah.
Just crazy. I could have walked back faster, probably not, but I could have jogged back quicker. But that would have involved jogging. So it's like the traffic instead.
Wise thing to do. Let's take a replay at Le Mans then here with a few minutes to go in the session. Down at turn 8. Garage Vert, second gear, 80 km/h corner as well. Just on the brakes ever so slightly, just gently does it for Jack Miller, who is topping this session. Now Maverick Vinales actually topping it, sorry. 132.202. Quartararo's in the garage. He's got to go out in qualifying 1, so that's his session done. Everyone is on the circuit. Luca Marini and Quartararo in the pit lane. Marco Bezzecchi hasn't gone out since his accident earlier on in this 30-minute session. Doesn't want to damage bike 2. He'll need that for qualifying. Across the line then, here's Maverick Vinales going fastest and goes faster with a 131.917. 3/10 faster now then, Jack Miller in this free practice session ahead of qualifying. By the way, when this, because we're on separate streams for free practice and qualifying, and they are back to back with each other, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to click away or anything. You'll be automatically redirected as soon as this stream ends. You'll be redirected to the qualifying live coverage automatically. A wonderful new feature for YouTube now. So if you want to watch qualifying, when this stream ends, all you have to do is stay exactly where you are. Don't press anything. You'll automatically be redirected. But Jack Miller has had a problem at the end of the pit lane, and he can't get out to do a practice start. His bike seems to have stalled as the checkered flag comes out. Now, Pecco Bagnaia is third at the moment. Viñales is faster by 22 thousandths of a second, and yeah, Miller stalled in the pit lane and is coming back down the wrong way, and he will not get out to do a practice start. Miller ends for the first time this weekend a session in second position. He will not top it. Viñales is up by half a tenth. Bagnaia goes second, 1:32.191. Miller demoted to third then in this free practice session. Viñales looks fastest. Out of the last corner, Morbidelli goes sixth. Can Viñales find something across the board? Crosses the line. Goes fastest. 1:31.898. Fastest time we saw yesterday in practice 2 was set by Jack Miller, was a 1:30.950. 10th faster than Aleix Spargo. So the track conditions still aren't there. Track temperature 19 degrees, air temperature 15 with 77% humidity. So there's still a lot to be found. Zarco 12th. Is he going to improve? Marquez 4th. That's Marc Marquez 4th. Aleix Spargo 5th. Morbidelli 6th. Augusto Fernandez 10th, D'Antonio 11th, Zarco 12th across the lines, goes up to P8, ahead of Quartararo and Marini, who stayed in the pit lane. Miller's not going to set a time, and neither's Bezzecchi. That's it then from this session. It's Maverick Viñales from Bagnaia, Miller, Marc Marquez, Aleix Spargo, Morbidelli, Martin, Zarco, Quartararo, Marini top 10. Fernandez, D'Antonio, Mia, Nakagami, Alex Marquez, Binder, Rins, Petrucci, Folger, Salvadori and Bezzecchi. But well done to Maverick Viñales on the Aprilia as he tries, Maverick Viñales does, to get a first win on that Aprilia. Hasn't won since Qatar 2021. On the Yamaha, because he left them mid-season. So that's it then for free practice. Qualifying starting soon. As soon as this live stream ends, you'll be automatically redirected to the qualifying stream. Viñales top, Bagnaia second, Miller in third. See you in about 30 seconds.